And welcome in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. I'm Chris Clark. Special guest today, talking with Gamecock football cornerback Judge Collier. Going into year 2 in Columbia. Excited to talk with him, Judge. I appreciate you joining me, man. How's everything going for you?
Good, smooth. Came back, had a good spring. Going through summer workouts and everything right now. So everything's everything right now.
That's great. Good to hear, man. Well, we got a lot of territory to cover, I think, here on the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. Um, Here's where I want to start. It's kind of a fascinating thing that I talk about with my colleague Wes a lot, and that
Mm.
is, you're going into year 2. You actually started multiple games for South Carolina last season as a true freshman, which is not easy to do. So let's look back at year 1 a little bit. I want to get into recruiting, and I want to get into year 2, and I want to get into spring ball and the growth of your game and all those things. But let's look back at year 1 a little bit. What's kind of your assessment of how things went, and how was that experience of just, being able to get on the field in year 1?
Yeah, it was a good experience. I feel like it'll benefit me a lot going into year two and getting a lot of game experience throughout year one, starting a few games, playing in just about every game. I think that'll be a big help in my transition going into year two. Looking to play a lot more snaps and starting a lot more games this upcoming season. So I feel like that was the biggest benefit.
There's, I think, a moment for really any freshman where it's kind of like you go transition from, I mean, you played really good high school football here in the state of South Carolina, obviously.
Yes, sir.
But anytime you transition to the college level, especially when you step up to Power Four, especially when you step up to the SEC, like there is always, I think, a big transition, right? I mean, everybody's bigger, faster, stronger. But did you have a moment, whether it was in workouts or in practice or on the field, where you're like, man, this is just a little bit different, than what I'm accustomed to?
Oh, the first day of workouts when I got there, it got me bad. Yeah, it was a big transition. Like going from high school, like we lifted in high school, but like even like we probably didn't lift how we should have, and then coming here and the facilities and how Coach Day and the strength staff they work. Yeah, I definitely got a rude awakening that first workout.
Was it just like the volume of everything? Was it like the amount of running and conditioning, or was it maybe a little kind of all of the above? Is that,
All love like it took you out. It took me out of it, like, because you go in, it's a warm up. You go in. I thought the warm up was the workout. You do the warm up. Then I'm like, all right, yeah, it's smooth. Like, yeah, and then you go inside and it's like, wait, what? Is something else? That the workout actually that kills you, and then you gotta run after. Like, yeah, y'all got it. Yeah, that was that was my welcome to the SEC moment right there for sure.
what about on the field? What was it first day of practice where you're like, you're a freshman and you are now playing with and practicing against guys that, yes, they're your teammates, but you're going up against them in practice. And these are all guys, like, not everybody you played against in high school was a D1 athlete, a SEC athlete like you are. Now you're going against guys that are all that, right? Was there like an on field moment day 1 where you're like, you can
Yeah,
see the difference as well?
first day of pass for sure. Like you realize, like, yeah, you was the biggest in high school, and now it's like it's grown men out here. Like I came in January, I was 17, so it was just like I'm tackling 20, 21, 22, 23 year olds at practice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that was first day of pass. Definitely was another welcome to the SEC moment for sure.
So you mentioned something I definitely wanted to hit on, and that is, you did have the benefit of being able to come in early in January, go through winter workouts, go through that first day, that welcome to the SEC moment in workouts. But you got to go through that, and then you got to go through spring ball, and the summer program. And by the time preseason practice rolled around before the season, like you're a little bit more well acclimated. How big do you think that was for you in year one of your development to be able to get that extra time as an early enrollee?
Yeah, that was definitely beneficial coming in January because Coach Gray definitely talked me into it. Because if I had it my way, I would have stayed. I would have ran track. I would have won state in the high jump. But like he's like, come on, come on. So I came down in January, moved in, and like right away, like that first night we moved in, we had a Zoom meeting. Me, Coach Gray, Jalen, Cam, like we all had a Zoom meeting and we just started learning the playbook right away. So learning that through all of winter workouts and then going into spring ball, it's like, all right, we've talked about it already. Now we just gotta put it together. And then, you still not gonna be perfect. You're gonna work out the kinks or whatever. He's gonna coach you, correct you, and then going through summer workouts. We're not practicing, of course, but we're just lifting. But we continue to have our Zoom meetings or whatever. And you go into fall camp. It's like, all right, you done talked about it in the winter. You went through it in the spring. You talked about it again in the summer. So like going into fall camp, like those kids who did come in the summer, it's like, all right, you got a leg up on them now because you've
Yeah.
had a semester of learning already. So that was definitely beneficial.
And I'm always impressed. I'm impressed with what you were able to do as a true freshman. Obviously, let's say that first. But man, you go back to the year before you got here, and the 2022 class. You were in 23. 2022 class. Nicky Manwari and DQ Smith. Those guys came in as freshmen and played a lot and started games, and they didn't get here until the summer.
Yeah.
Which to me, I mean, I know Coach Beamer's talked about that a lot too, but that's even more impressive to me because a lot of guys do enroll early. Do you ever did you notice that and think about that? Man, that like those guys learned quickly because they got here in the summer.
Yeah, because honestly, like with my whole recruitment and stuff, my recruitment picked up so slow. It was very slow. So I didn't know enrolling early was even an option. I thought everybody came in the summer all together. I was expecting to come in the summer all together. So when Coach Gray hit me up and told me, he was like, think about coming early, da 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 da, make sure you finish all your high school classes and whatever, finish up how you need to so you can come in January. I was like, yeah, because like for Nick and DQ to come in the summer and learn the entire playbook, especially at the safety position, like safety position, you got to know everything. So for them to come in and absorb all that knowledge, and then like Nick went out there game one and finished the rest of the game, and by like week two or week three, I think DQ was in the starting lineup and produced. And so
Yep.
for them to do that and come in the summer and absorb all that knowledge, like that's a testament to both of them.
Do you remember your first play of your freshman season that you got in on? Like, was it special teams? Were you in there at corner? Do you even remember?
Yeah, my first play was the first game in when we played in the Panther Stadium. We played North Carolina.
Right.
It was punt return. I was covering up the gunner. That was my first play, and then I think coach. I was so crazy thing was I thought I was finna go in week one against North Carolina. It's like first or second quarter. OD he had got a targeting penalty. We didn't know if it was targeting or not. We didn't know if he was going to be thrown out. So I was going. Coach Gray he got me on the headset. He talked to me. I was ready to go in, but OD wasn't called for targeting. They waived the call or whatever, and he finished the game. But he ended up putting me back in like the last 2 minutes of the game. So that was cool.
Yeah, I got to get a little experience right off the bat, game one. I'm sure that was a pretty cool moment. You played your high school ball right near, pretty close to there in Charlotte.
Yeah, that was big. Like everybody from the was out there. They see me in the game, so that was cool. But yeah,
For sure. All right, we got a lot more ground to cover with Gamecock sophomore cornerback Judge Collier. Here on the game, you're listening to the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. On the other side, going to look back on Judge's recruiting process. Mentioned it a few minutes ago. Little bit of a slower start, picked up late. Gamecocks ended up getting you. We're going to look back on that story. I got some questions to ask you about it. We'll be right back. You're listening to the game. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. All right, we are back here on the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. I am Chris Clark, and I'm joined here with Judge Collier, Gamecock sophomore defensive back, going into year two. Segment one was fun, Judge. We got to kind of look back on your freshman season, and you mentioned something I wanted to expand on a little bit, and that was your recruiting process. And as we sit here, I'm actually going to pull up your recruiting profile here on On3, and you might honestly still be mad about your ranking. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna pull it up here and see what you think about it. So, out of high school, you played at Legion Collegiate in Rock Hill. You were ranked as the number 20 prospect in SC, 3-star prospect, the number 115 safety in the country. Ooh.
Yeah.
Did they do you wrong, you think?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, first of all, so they got you ranked as a safety here.
Mm.
And I haven't looked at all the major services to see where you are, but you ended up playing corner for the Gamecocks. So, I know you played both ways in high school as well. Did you think, hey, I'm probably going to play corner in college, or what do you think colleges saw in you to translate you to definitely playing on the defensive side of the ball and also being a corner?
Yeah, Coach Gray, he made it clear he wanted me to play corner. He said I was too long to be back there at safety. So Coach Gray liked those big long corners like
He
Rush
does.
and those other guys that he had. So he made it clear from the jump. He ain't playing no safety, he playing corner. So I knew that. I knew that coming in. But like even like some of the other schools, like I had the Air Force, they wanted me to play receiver
Okay.
uh, at the Air Force. Navy, they wanted me to come play safety, and Wofford wanted me to come play safety. But like uh, coming out of high school, I definitely like I didn't know if I wanted to play corner or safety. I didn't really have my mind made up. Uh, because before South Carolina offered me, I didn't have my mind made up. I know when they offered me, I was like, well, Coach Gray made it clear that I was gonna play corner. I didn't know if I was gonna have any say so if I went anywhere else, if I wanted to play corner or safety. But
So your biggest other offer, and correct me if I'm wrong, like I'm looking over your recruiting profile, which I mean doesn't always have all the offers, but the
mm,
ones you mentioned, you had some service academy offers, and you have Boston College, right?
yep.
Why do you think you went so under recruited? I mean, you mentioned it earlier, like it was a little bit slow, and
Mm.
Gamecocks obviously ended up offering you, but did they just miss a diamond in the rough, or what was the deal there? You think?
I think so. I mean, and part of it has to do with my school. I was played lower level ball. It was a 2A 3A school. I think Legion
Mm-hmm.
2A 3A. But we did. I thought that it would when the school opened up. The whole thing was their head coach. Their head coach is Coach Strahan. Love Coach Heron. He used to coach at South Point.
Yep.
He coached Gilmore, Clowney, Darion Kendrick. He had all those big names coming out of South Point. So my whole thing and my people's whole thing was when Legion opened up was all right. He has connections. He's networked with these schools. He can get me to college if when the time comes. So I mean, playing lower level ball like that, we had to travel a lot to play schools and teams like the whole 2A, 3A, 5A, 6A thing, like it never really mattered to me. Like that's the size of your school. Like that's how many students are in your school, and people make it seem like it's such a big deal. But I mean, we were playing competition though. We would go to Charlotte. We played Providence State. We played Jaden Davis. We played big time schools, and I made plays in those games. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it all worked out in itself, but I think that my biggest thing, and even with the service schools offering me, they said, their whole thing was, we play 2A ball. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that impacted my recruitment.
Yeah, and I think, man, here's something I wonder, especially with the portal nowadays.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's going to get even tougher at those lower levels, right? Because like you came out in the 23 class, like the transfer portal wasn't then what it is now, where like it's really hopping, I think.
Yeah,
And I feel like a lot of college coaches look at it as, well, I don't know about his competition level. Maybe he's more of a developmental guy. Let's
yeah,
just go get this dude from this other school,
yeah,
And which that's kind of, I mean, I'm good with the transfer portal and the opportunities it can give for players for sure. but I think that's one of like the consequences of it that I feel like it can hurt high school recruiting. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it definitely can. I definitely like if in a few years, I feel like a lot of high school guys coming out of high school, if you're not that 4 or 5 star guy, like 3 star, whatever, you probably gonna have to go to a group of five school, a coastal,
Hmm.
a Western Kentucky, and then ball out there, and then hit the transfer portal and go to the big school, the SEC, the ACC, or whatever. But I definitely think in the next few years we'll see how big of an impact the transfer portal will have on high school recruitment.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for you, man, I mean, I don't want to paint it as a negative. I mean, we kind of joked about it a little bit about how you went under recruited and your ranking and all that. The bottom line is like you got an offer from the in-state school in South Carolina, um, an offer I'm sure you wanted, and you got to South Carolina and you played as a true freshman, right? And you're in line to possibly be a starter this year in year two. I think that's doing pretty. I think that like validates,
Yeah,
right? Like that validates your game. I think.
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does. Um, so let's talk about year two now. Going into it, start talking about spring a little bit. How did you see your game grow from your freshman season to even just this spring? Like some of the strides that you made.
Yeah, I definitely say my biggest thing was confidence. Gaining that confidence. Year one under my belt, I done played some snaps. I've been in the system, so
Hmm.
going into year two, it's just like, all right, you know what to do. You just got to put the pieces together. Like this is year two. This is This is supposed to be my statement year. So I got to come out and snap. I think going through spring ball, the biggest thing that me and Coach Gray, when we talked about was just becoming more situationally aware of, what's going on in the game, down and distance, what they're doing. Like, so just working on that aspect of my game. But I think, one of the things that I've improved on the most is just being consistent. Just, whether that's press down the field, in phase man, in phase zone, plays on the ball. So I think that was probably my biggest thing that I've grown upon, going into this year. Making
Hmm.
all takeaways, forced fumbles, being more physical, just, that kind of thing. So
You've mentioned Torian Gray several times, so I want to take a minute to talk about him. And you've also mentioned young players like yourself and Nikki and DQ and um, Jalen Kilgore, right? Torian has a pretty good track record, and especially with young players, like he seems really good at developing young guys. But speak a little bit to what you've seen from him as a coach and what you think of his development and the influence he's had on your game.
yeah, Coach Gray is probably one of the best coaches that I've had. I can truly say that because if we go back to high school for a minute, freshman year, I wanted to play quarterback. Didn't play,
Mm.
wasn't very good. His sophomore year was COVID year.
Hmm.
We didn't have a season, so I didn't
Right.
play football. I didn't
Yep.
play, and so junior year, I was like, this quarterback stuff ain't working. I'm gonna go to defense. So I just started playing defense, and it really wasn't defense. It was just Judge go out there and cover their best guy. Like that for the next 2 years. So coming into college in the SEC, it was like for him to teach me and coach me up and do what he did, to put me on, for him to coach me as well as he did and trust me to put me out there and start those games that I did. Like to do that all into, like, I've only been playing real defense for about a year now. So for him to do that, it's like that's a testament to his coaching and his ability to, coach players and bring guys along. I really do believe in Coach Gray and his coaching abilities.
Yeah, I mean, you laid it out pretty well there. Even beyond you just look at like the statistics and with what he's done. And I've heard some recruits recently, they're recruiting in this class. Like he's produced a lot of, freshman All Americans and, guys who've gone on to the NFL, but he seems to have a knack for getting guys on the field early and developing guys. Cam Smith, Darius Rush, he was an under recruited in state guy
Uh,
who ended up making it to the league. Jalen Foster, former walk on, went to an All American, and getting guys like yourself, you just mentioned and laid it out well on the field. early. So I mentioned your teammates, Judge. Coming up in the next segment, I want to give you a chance to shout out some of your teammates, and I want to get some scouting reports on those guys from what you've seen this spring as well. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back here on the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating, more Judge Collier. All right, Chris Clark back with you here on the game. It's the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. A little bit more time here with Judge Collier from Gamecock Football. Appreciate your time joining us, Judge, for the first two segments. It's been fun so far, just, learning about your game, looking back on recruiting, all that good stuff. I want to talk a little bit. I always like getting players' kind of scouting reports and their thoughts on some of their teammates. And we're going to get back to your game as well. But y'all have kind of, I think, a fascinating situation in the secondary this year because I feel like y'all built some depth there, and y'all have some competition at corner too, which is pretty cool, right? I mean, you talked about OD earlier. He's been around a while. He seems to have a slot. I know Coach Beamer would probably get mad at me saying this, but he seems to have one slot fairly locked down.
Yeah.
But you obviously have a great shot to get one. You're kind of the returning guy with starting experience and played really well last year. But y'all got some other young guys too, who you can put in there.
Yeah.
Vakari Swain, Emory Floyd, Jalewis Solomon coming in. So let's kind of take those one by one. Emory Floyd, former highly ranked guy, size, can run, track guy at South Carolina. What have you seen from Emory?
Yeah, Emory, I like Emory. We're all different in our
Yeah.
aspects of the game. I say Emory, he's probably one of the more physical ones. He's out of all of us. He's physical at the line, point of attack, run game. Like Emory's a physical corner. Bakari, he's a ball hawk. Like the ball's in the air is his, and making those man to man plays, that those picks and man to man, those are hard to do, and Bakari does it all the time. Like, you just got a knack for the ball. Like, it's easier at safety. You get to see the whole field. You backpedaling, weaving, but do that at corner and to be in man and make those plays like Bakari does that all the time. He's got a knack for the ball, and then like myself, like I'm long. Like I got 7 feet on. My arms are 7 feet long. So my press game, my down the field game, like, I feel like that's where I'm strongest at. So, it's big competition. And then Jalewis, he's coming in, he's playing nickel too. I think Coach Grady's gonna try and move him around and put him where he sees fit. But he's coming, and I think that he'll be someone that'll play a lot this year too as well. So
Yeah, Vakari, man, was one. You mentioned his ball skills. Like in high school, I couldn't decide. I'm like, God, do you play him at receiver? Do you play him at corner? I mean, that's something we heard a lot. Like, he had a knack, was a good word. Like, he had a knack for just making like some kind of crazy plays
yeah.
in practice.
Yeah, Bakari, yeah. Wherever the ball is, that's where Bakari is. Even quarterbacks like Lenoris has his own rule. He's like, whatever side Bakari's on, you that side of the field is dead. I'm on the other side of the field. Like
I,
Bakari, wherever the ball is, that's where he is.
that is that's pretty high praise for a corner because that's the goal, right? You don't want him to throw. You don't want him to throw to your side for sure. All right, so next up, man, let's talk a little bit about some of these other guys that have been around. We mentioned DQ, Nicky Manwari.
Mhm.
Jalen Kilgore came in your class. Let's talk about Jalen a little bit, man. Can play safety, can play nickel. Another guy that had a really good freshman year last year, along with yourself, but another long guy. I feel like he's got some size to him. What have you seen from Jalen?
Yeah, Jalen's a hard worker. He's my roommate. He down the hall, but yeah, Jalen's a player. Like, to come in and do what he did, and Nick went down. And he went in and finished the job, and he stayed there the rest of the season, and he didn't look back. So I think Jalen's one. He's a talent. He's a player. So I think it's just really just a testament to his hard work and his dedication. Like, Jalen's always in there working. He's watching film. He's doing all the extra things, the little things, and that's what makes a great player. And he's done that. And he's had to do that. He had to grow up fast playing in the SEC at young. So. That's just a testament to him and his character.
Let's get your big picture thoughts on the defense. Coach Gray obviously has a big role in that, coaching the secondary. Coach White, back at the helm to call the defense. And I know you guys are looking at things, looking to improve going into the 2024 season against, as usual, a difficult schedule. But, when you look at the defense, what's kind of the overall, vibe going into this year? And what did you see from the defense in the spring in terms of, just improvements and what you saw out of the group as a unit?
Yeah, I mean the goal is always to come in and dominate, and I feel like we can do that as a defense. We got returning guys and myself, Kari Emery, um, Nick BQ. Um, I mean, we added some depth at linebacker. We got D Knight, we got Golly, we got Bam and Debo still, and then that those boys up front, Tonka stayed, Boogie still here, TJ still here. So I think we expect to dominate this season. I think that we got the pieces to do it.
For sure. What does that look like to you in terms of, when you mentioned dominate, is that just full picture of let's get turnovers and takeaways, let's stop the run, let's be really good on third down, let's tackle well? Like, is it just whole picture? There's some specific things that y'all have honed in on that you really want to, try to work on and make a point of emphasis this offseason?
Yeah, I mean we've led the SEC in takeaways for a few years now, and I think that we can continue to do that, especially with the secondary that we have. Our those big boys up front applying pressure, producing sacks, producing takeaways, and I mean for just full domination. Like our whole thing on defense is get the ball back, turnovers, stuff like that, and I feel like we're fully capable to do that this year.
You mentioned earlier, by the way, this is kind of getting us a little off track, back on another topic, but
Mhm.
you mentioned that you would have won state in track, and you said the high jump. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You think so? How high can you jump? Like, what's your vertical?
Vertical is like 39 and a half, 40.
Woo. Yeah,
But
that's pretty good.
let's see, because I went back and watched the state meet last year, whenever that was, that I would have won.
Yes, you went back and compared the numbers. Like, I would have had that.
I definitely would have had it because the guy who won it my junior year, which was my last year running track since I came early, the guy who won it, he jumped 7'1". I had jumped 6'10". So I would have blew it out the water if I had just stayed. And I kick myself about that all the time. I like would have had a ring, but it worked itself out all in the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say that has to be tough. You're like, man, I could have had that, but at the same time, you got to enroll early. That puts you on a better track, to probably get on the field earlier. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. So, in the next couple minutes here, let's talk a little bit about the receivers. There's some new faces in the receiver core for South Carolina, and I
Mhm.
know you had to match up against some of them in the spring. They're adding a couple more that you'll see in preseason, but they added a few guys from the portal. How's it been matching up with those guys? Give us some thoughts on, Amari Huggins Bruce and Jared Brown, um, and all those guys. What have you thought about them?
I like 'em.
Gage.
I feel like they have like they're just like us. They're all different in their own aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, JB coming from Coastal, he's well rounded. He can run routes. He's fast. He can beat you down the field. He can run those intermediate routes. Gage, he's a smaller guy, but he's fast. He's quick. He's twitchy. The same thing with Amari. So I think they'll be key components for what we do this up and coming season, along with the guys that we already had. And of course, you can't forget Nick Harbor. So
Yeah, for sure. Nick did some good things this year with the track and field team, and expected to be back with the team for preseason camp. So there'll definitely be some new faces there, and a couple new guys to match up against for you, who are also transferring into the program. We'll be back for a final segment after the break with Judge Collier, listening to the Garnet Trust Hour here on the Game, presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. All right, we're back. It's the Game. Chris Clark here. I'm hanging out with Judge Collier on the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. And Judge, for this last segment, we've had fun talking about a lot of stuff. honestly probably left some stuff on the table that we could have hit on, but want to make sure I want to make sure we got this in. We have a segment on the show that we do sometimes. It's called Make Your Case. So kind of like a courtroom type of thing, and it struck me like you got the name judge. We might as well do it.
Yeah.
Make your case with Judge Collier. So I think that'll be cool. By the way, man, where'd the name, any significance to the name Judge? Did it come from anywhere?
I mean, it just goes back all the way. My pops, his name Judge. His dad's name.
Okay.
It just goes all the way back, and it's,
I,
it's, it's with me now. So I gotta pass it on.
I saw, I guess that was your pops at the Lancaster Welcome Home Tour rocking the Judge Collier shirt.
Yes, sir.
Also, that was awesome, wearing the gear. So that was really cool of them to show up and support you in that, man. So, yeah, make your case with Judge Collier. So got a few that I'm gonna run by you. So I'm gonna give you a topic, give you a couple possible answers, and then I want you to just lay out the correct answer and why you think so. All right. So first one's a food question. Okay.
All right.
You always got to talk about food.
For sure.
Make your case. Are boneless wings or are they chicken nuggets?
Glorified chicken nuggets.
Man.
Or glorified.
Honestly, we could stop there. I mean, that is the best answer I've ever heard.
That's all they are. Just glorified. But and they make you pay more for them too. Like,
Oh, they act like there's something special.
you feel me? Like, it's glorified chicken nuggets.
Absolutely nothing special about it. Yeah, I love that, man. All right, so that's that. There's your food question of the day. All right, make your case. Press man or off coverage?
Press man.
I mean,
all 7 feet. They got to feel all 7 feet.
Would any corner even ever say off coverage? I'd be maybe a little skeptical if they did.
I mean, it all depends on the situation. You know.
I mean, I know you got to do it, but like, if you like, I don't know. I feel like if you're a corner, like you would be like, I want to play press coverage. I don't know. Maybe. All right, make your case. Fastest man on the Gamecock football roster right now. This is polarizing topic.
I mean, this dude's finna be in Paris, so I mean, you can't argue with him. I mean, this dude's running up against Olympic talent, so I guess Harbor.
Yeah, Nick Harbor. Okay. Definitely. And here's what I always say. If it's like 60 meters or over, Nick Harbor. If it's a 40-yard dash, maybe somebody else.
Maybe.
Because it takes him, you know what I'm saying? Like his stride.
Yeah, turnover speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not real twitch. He's just long and cover ground.
Yeah. Like I watched him in the 200 at Nationals the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, those dudes are chugging. And I'm like, Nick's taking like one step for a normal dude's like 3, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So I think it'd take him a little bit longer. But yeah, Nick Harbor. Okay, fastest man according to Judge Collier. All right, and last one for you. Because we talked about this earlier. Make your case. Highest jumper on the team. Is it Judge Collier?
For sure.
Okay. All right, no doubt about it.
Plenty of dudes who want to debate it and go back and forth, and we will check my mile split. I just 6'10". Nobody can jump. Like, balls in the air, we can do one-on-ones. I'll go to receiver. Hey, red zone, 50-50 ball.
Okay.
I
like it. I like it. All right, man. Well, it's been fun, Judge. I appreciate you taking the time to join us on the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Kooling and Heating. Best of luck to you this year, man. I know we'll all be following and watching. And thanks for taking time to join me today.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.